Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and leave a comment to support us. Enjoy the video. Events after Hammurabi. Immediately after the death of Hammurabi in 1750 BC, his son Samsu-Iluna ascended to the throne. Since he inherited an enormously large empire, keeping it united proved more difficult than expanding it further. Babylon appeared very powerful on the surface, but during the reign of Samsu-Iluna, the first sparks of decline began to emerge. The economy, already strained by the long wars of Hammurabi's reign, accelerated toward collapse. Southern cities such as Uruk, Isin, and Larsa soon began to rebel. Nippur, in particular, offered the fiercest resistance. As a result of these rebellions, southern Mesopotamia gradually slipped out of Babylonian control and moved toward independence. In the north, new problems were also emerging. Although Assyria was still subordinate to Babylon, it was steadily growing stronger. During the same period, the Kassite tribes from the Zagros Mountains appeared on the historical stage. At first, they emerged as mercenaries, raiders, and small groups causing minor disturbances. Initially, they carried out irregular attacks. However, over time, they settled in the northeastern regions, built fortresses, and began to play an influential role in Babylonian administration. The clearest evidence of Babylon's political and cultural decline is that almost no information about the kings who succeeded Samsu-Iluna has survived. To the present day, by the middle of the 17th century BC, Babylon's power had fragmented and its influence had diminished. The kingdom's territory began to shrink. Local rulers started acting independently from the king, and the weakening state paved the way for the rise of new northern powers. First Ashnuna, then Mitanni, and later the Hittites began to exert influence over the region. The Hittite siege of Babylon around 1595 BC, the Hittite King Mursili I advanced through northern Mesopotamia and launched a surprise attack directly against Babylon. Mursili I besieged the city and continued his assaults, and the city fell. The Hittites plundered Babylon, and Samsu-Iluna, the 11th and last king of the Amorite dynasty, was killed. This event brought about the inevitable end of the old Babylonian kingdom. The central government disappeared. The administrative system collapsed. Many priests and nobles were killed, while others were forced to flee. Cities were destroyed and reduced to ruins, and agricultural lands were devastated. However, the Hittites did not remain in the region. They returned to Anatolia with the Mesopotamian treasures and spoils they had seized, leaving behind a massive political vacuum in Mesopotamia. The beginning of the Kassite period. This political vacuum in Mesopotamia did not last long. The Kassites filled the void. Babylon had become too weak to resist, and the Kassites soon launched incursions into the city and took control of it. Unlike the Hittites, however, they chose not to plunder or destroy Babylon. Instead, they preferred to use the existing institutions for their own purposes. Following this event, a new era began in Babylonian history. The first years of Kassite rule can be regarded as a transitional period. The institutions of Old Babylon continued to function, while the Kassite elite gradually integrated into the administrative system. The new kings adopted the Akkadian language and Babylonian religion. They benefited from the existing Amorite aristocracy and preserved the state structure already in place. These choices enabled the Kassites to gain legitimacy for centuries. The first Kassite rulers and their successors rebuilt temples and brought back the statue of Marduk to Babylon, which had previously been taken away by the Hittites. This was an extremely powerful symbolic act for its time, reinforcing both religious continuity and the sacred nature of royal authority, making it a highly effective political move. The Golden Age of the Kassite Dynasty. The Kassite Dynasty was the longest-lasting dynasty in Babylonian history. They ruled for more than 400 years, until approximately the 12th century BC, pursuing an active foreign policy. The Kassite kings established diplomatic relations with Egypt, the Hittites, Elam, and Assyria. Letters exchanged between the Babylonian kings and the pharaohs of Egypt's 18th dynasty have survived to the present day. In these correspondences, the rulers addressed one another as the great kings of the age and as equal sovereigns. This demonstrates that Babylon was recognized as one of the most important centers of power in the Bronze Age world. The End of Kassite Rule. Toward the end of the 13th century BC, Babylon once again began to decline. At the same time, Assyria was growing increasingly powerful and was pushing Babylon away from its leading position. Subsequently, the Assyrian king Tukulti-Ninurta launched a major campaign against Babylon during the Kassite period, around 1225 BC. He inflicted a severe defeat on the Kassites, captured Babylon, and plundered the city. A significant portion of the Babylonian aristocracy was taken captive, and the Kassite king was carried off to Assyria as a prisoner of war. This marked the first time Babylon had been conquered by the Assyrians. After capturing the city, Tukulti-Ninurta declared himself king of Babylon and sought to govern it through a system of governors. However, his rule did not last long. His actions contributed to uprisings in Babylon and eventually led to his assassination in a coup in Assyria. The empire descended into turmoil. The Kassite dynasty returned to power, but the restored dynasty was never able to regain its former strength. The final blow came in 1155 BC. The Elamite king Shutruk-Nahunta captured Babylon and carried the statues of the gods, including Marduk, to Susa. With this event, Kassite rule came to a complete end. Babylon under Assyrian rule following the end of the Kassite dynasty and the destruction of Babylon by the Elamites. Southern Mesopotamia found itself at the center of chaos. While rival dynasties and warlords struggled for power, Assyria, which had by then become a great empire, increasingly intervened in the affairs of a weakened and decentralized Babylon. The real turning point came during the reign of the Assyrian king Tiglath-Pileser III. Pursuing a systematic expansion policy toward the south, he brought Babylon under his authority. He allowed Babylonian kings to retain their titles, but in reality, he reduced them to little more than vassals. During the reigns of his successors, Assyrian control over Babylon became even tighter. Rebellions were suppressed. Incompetent rulers were removed from office, and governors loyal to Assyria were appointed in their place. Although Babylon was politically under Assyrian domination, it continued to be respected as a sacred religious center. In 729 BC, Tiglath-Pileser III directly declared himself king of Babylon, bringing an end to the appearance of Babylonian independence. However, the rulers who followed him, especially Sargon II and Sennacherib, paid little attention to Babylon's autonomy. Sennacherib destroys Babylon in 689 BC, following a new rebellion. Sennacherib launched an attack on Babylon. The city was completely captured and largely destroyed, but Sennacherib did not stop there. He diverted the waters of the Euphrates River over the city and flooded Babylon in an effort to erase it from history. This event created shockwaves throughout Mesopotamia and left a lasting mark on the pages of history. Babylon was still regarded as one of the holiest centers in the region, and this harsh treatment of the city caused unrest even within Assyria itself. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of our series.